Hey guys, welcome back to your YouTube channel. This is what you've been waiting for. Alright, so as you boys know, I received a letter from the government a couple of weeks ago, actually, beginning of December, and it was summoned for jury. I was like, great, this is the last thing I needed since I started a new job, but let me talk about my experience and the case and basically the procedure of how it went down. Hope you guys like it. I have my iPad here, I have this letter with me here. I'll break down the price, how much you get paid, if your lunch gets covered, and all that good stuff. So yeah, let's get right into it. Now, I received that letter, as I said before, very early in December, and it's a bright pink letter, and it has right across, you've been summoned to jury service. First thing I thought was like, what is this? Never heard of it, never thought about it in my life, and I was like, do I really need to go? Posted it on my social medias, and I got a lot of responses back saying, you have to go, it's gonna be long, you're gonna be bored. And I was like, okay, just started a new job, been training, do I really want to go through all of that? Literally tried every single thing to try and avoid it. And at the end, literally went to my job and I was like, listen guys, this is what I got, do I need to go? Immediately they said, yes, you have to, it's been covered by us, so I had no other choice. Right after that, I had to get ready, because as I said, I had no clue as to what I was gonna do. I waited out, signed up every paper that I needed to sign, did it all online, really quickly, got my number, and then I had to wait for the day. So I've been summoned on the 28th of January. They told me it was going to be for like 2 weeks, 10 days, give or take, if you include the weekends. And it was that. I went there Monday morning. It was right, quite a lot of people were there. Didn't expect it, for it was just a small bunch of us, but quite a lot of people turned up, and it was good. It was good initially. So me being me, I lost my paper, my being summoned paper, so I had to figure out how to get in, because I thought I was going to get kicked out immediately. I was like, great, go home. But that didn't happen. Luckily for me, I took a picture of my jury number and took some ID with me, and they signed me in. Now, once you get signed in, you get sent into this massive room where everybody sits down and just basically waits for this guy, I don't know, the manager or something, and he goes over for some procedures as to what you expect, what you can't expect, what you can do, what you cannot do. Just basic rules, you know, like, you know, as you would expect everywhere. That took like half an hour, literally. At that point, I was getting bored. Half an hour of listening to that guy's voice. It felt like he didn't even want to be there, so it was all good. So yeah, that's when they were told we have to sit down here and wait until our names are called. And how they do it, I'll go through that in a little bit later, but that's when the waiting started. Luckily for me, got my phone, had my iPad, watched some Netflix, literally 9 AM in the morning on a Monday. What better can you do, right? And start waiting. So a couple of hours went by, and a few people got summoned, other people sat down. Every time people got summoned, everybody stood up, we're listening to the speaker, see if your name was called out, because at the, at the guy, he was like, 15 names will be called up, and only 12 will be needed. So there will be a cut down of 3 once you get to the jury. I think I waited about 4 hours, so literally from like 9 AM, like 9:30ish, till about 12:30, 1, waited out for my name to be called, and I was like, okay, this is not going to be my day, because I think every 45 minutes they used to say, okay, we've got 5 more cases left, please wait while your name is called up, and that's how it went down. So as I said, around 12:30ish, 1ish, that's when my name got called up. Literally that right second I was like, okay, this is gonna go down. Walked up with a bunch of people, as I said, 15 of us to the jury assembly, and that's when it hits reality when you first enter that courtroom. I was expecting some movie shit, like suits, like separated jury and prosecutor. like massive, like, I don't know. I was expecting a whole lot different than what I got. Anyway, we stood on a line, and there was this woman there with these cards, and she kept reading out names, and she was like, if your name is called, please stand in the jury assembly area. And the victim, or the guy that was not the victim, what's his name? The guy that, I don't know, did this stuff, he basically had the opportunity to either get us in that jury assembly or say, no, I do not want that sort of person there. And that's how it went. So my name got called up, the guy had no objections, I sat down, every name was called up until there were 12 people. The other 3, they had to go back and, you know, wait for another case. That's when the judge spoke. He basically went through the simple stuff in regards to what you can expect from him, what you can expect from the usher, what you can expect from the prosecutor and the defendant. And the whole time, I kid you not, all of us were staring at the guy that did something. Like, I mean, apart from one of us, all of us, it was the first time. It was quite surreal, and I think we were just all like, okay, this is like the real thing now. It's about to go down, honestly. So everything was explained, and at that time, lunchtime came. So we fortunately got enough time to like go to lunch and come back and then start the case for real, and it was good. Now, okay, about the case, this is what a lot of you guys have been waiting for. The case was basically a guy, I won't say his name or his age, you know, confidentiality and all that. He basically was accused of hitting someone with a hockey stick near on his head, and there was a gash of like at least 6 or 7 inches. So like, I don't even know if that's 6 or 7, but whatever. Like, so he was being accused of maliciously intent to hurt somebody, and that it was being accused. So our job was obviously to see whether he was guilty or not guilty for it, and the prosecutor job was to convince us. The defense was obviously to convince us that it's not guilty. And this is how it went down. So it was the prosecutor's job first to explain what happened. We were given booklets of all the evidence that they collected, the location, the injuries, like the police that the details that they took, the photographs they have taken, literally every single piece of evidence you can find on a crime scene. They collected it and put it all in a booklet for us. Now, as I said, the guy was being accused for hitting somebody else with a hockey stick, and it wasn't just a one hit done. He was being accused of hitting him 3 times, once on the head, second time on his arm, and then the third time on his palm right here. Now, first thing, literally, as a human mind, when I saw the picture, I was like, yep, he did it, he's guilty. I was convinced. I was like, there's no way someone cannot do something like this and not be guilty. So, in essence, you could say I would have straight up made my mind, and I was just listening to the rest of the presentation of the prosecutor just to see what else might come out. Now, disclaimer, this prosecutor was bad. Really, really bad. Like, I cannot stress enough how bad he was. It felt like it was his first case. It felt like he was given this case in the last 2 seconds and he didn't want to be there. But that in a little bit. So after he explained, which took like 45 minutes because he was speaking slowly as if we didn't understand English, but he went on and literally spoke about why he felt this person was guilty. Then it was the defense turn to tell us why he was not guilty, and to be honest with you, she was just as bad as him, but in essence you could say a bad and a bad equals a plus or something, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so it was her turn. She explained why he wasn't guilty, and why we should, you know, unanimously vote that he's not guilty. And that's where it was. Literally, all of that took pretty much the whole day, and I think we stopped at like 4:30. And rather than going into the next phase of the day, we decided to cut that day short and come back next day. Now, in the beginning, they told us that in the beginning they told us that, you know, this case might take 2 or 3 days. Now, that's what it was. So the first day was that, literally, it was quick, short, nothing happened much. Well, we explained the evidence and it left all there. So we all went home thinking, okay, what is really our job? Because we didn't hear much, so we didn't know what to think. Second day came on, and we picked up right where we left off the day before at 10 a.m. sharp, no waiting around in the waiting room, and it went straight into getting the first witness out. Now, we saw the victim come out. They had a blinder so that the victim and the guy that attacked him, or allegedly got attacked, didn't see each other. Not sure why. Maybe because, I don't know why. Anyway, he got sworn in, and he basically gave evidence, and it was the prosecutor's job to ask the questions that were needed, you know, for him to tell us what basically happened on that day. Now, the way he explained it was that the guy was sitting on his moped, and he hadn't had his helmet on, but he was bending down looking at his phone to see if he had any jobs, because he was a delivery driver. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon around July time, and he was basically on his moped, just, you know, seeing what other job might come up. I think he would work for Delivery or Vids, I don't know, one of them companies. So as he was doing that, this alleged victim came up and whacked him on the back of the head with what the victim presumed as a hockey stick. That's how he described it. He jumped off his moped and turned around. When he said he saw the guy clearly, that who he was, so he instantly knew from the first set who hit him. Now, that's when the second hit came up, and because the way the victim described it, he was trained in the army, and he basically did some sort of karate when he was younger. He knew how to block himself, so he put his left arm up to try and block the shot so it didn't hit his face, and that's when he got hit right here onto the cheekbone, and that started swelling up instantly from the pictures that we're seeing. And thirdly, he came up again, literally. So the way he described us, he pulled up the hockey stick again, came up with him hard, and that's when he tried to grab the hockey stick, and that's when he got hit on the palm. Because of the first hit, all the blood that splattered all over his hand, it got slippery, he didn't catch it. So that's when allegedly the guy said, "This is payback." Now, this all caught us by surprise, because nothing was set up on that point why he got hit or what the motive was. So when we all heard "this is payback," personally for me, I was like, okay, something is going on here that happened that led up to this, right? So I wrote that down on my little piece of note, and I was like, okay, you know, when we go into deliberation, I need to mention that later on. Now, those were the 3 instances where, you know, he explained as to what happened, and then that's when the judge spoke, because there was a confusion as to how he immediately recognized who was hitting him, because he was asked how long did all this take place, and he responded with 10 seconds, maybe 15 seconds. Now, if you think about it, 10 seconds, 15 seconds might not be long. However, when you're getting hit and like the pain that comes with it, and you having to jump off your moped and turn around and look at that person right in the face, like, how do you recognize someone so quickly that it's him, right? So anyway, he answered all the questions that needed to be answered. We saw the injuries, he explained where he got hit and everything, and that was his turn. He was done, right? Secondly, there was a witness. The witness came from, I'm not going to mention the area specifically, but he was on the other side of the road, so he saw the altercation happening, and he saw a white male and a black male having a go at each other, and he basically waited until it was done and went to try and help. Now, while that all was happening, as I said before, it only took 10 to 15 seconds, as the guy described it, that it all took place. The victim tried to defend himself, so what he did was he took a few steps back, turned around and ran into some corner shop. At that corner shop, he looked for something to, I don't know, hit the guy back with, defend himself with, a shield, something, I don't know. He didn't find anything, came back out, and that's when the guy were gone. So the witness was called up, and it was some, you know, young Asian kid, and he basically gave evidence as to what he saw on that day. Now, the way he described it was the guy was over 6 feet and was wearing a black bomber jacket. Yeah, that's it, black bomber jacket. Now, the confusion where the judge had to ask the victim and the witness twice what kind of hair he had is because they confused themselves with whether the guy had braids or cornrows, and whether it was like properly done or whether it was like kind of coming out, you know, when you get cornrows or braids, after a while it starts to come out, how he basically looked. So that's where the confusion was a little bit, because the victim described the guy as a 5'9", the witness described the alleged attacker as over 6 foot. So there was a misinterpretation as to how tall he was. So, you know, again, write that down, you know, maybe it was someone else. Anyway, the police that came first onto the scene, he was in court, and for a long time I had no idea that it was the police. I thought it was, you know, someone from, I don't know, the government, just overseeing the situation that, whether it was running smoothly and all that stuff. So that all happened, the witness gave his statement and he left. That's when the police came up and he gave evidence as to what he saw when he first came onto the scene. Now, we were given a bundle of all the pictures, so as we were going through the pictures, we saw that his helmet was on the floor, there were blood splatters on the car, on the floor, and the corner shop that the victim ran into. Now, with all of that, in my opinion, I believe the prosecutor did a very, very, very bad job in getting the information that is necessary from the police, police guy. Because all he literally said was, well, all he really did was repeat what we already knew. So, for example, he would say, So, for example, he would say, what time did this event happen? We already knew it was in the afternoon at 4 o'clock. So, all the policeman did was repeat what we already knew. And in my opinion, that 20 minutes, 25 minutes that police guy was questioned was an absolute disaster. Like, I think if you're thinking that way, it could have made or break that case right then. And like, that prosecutor's job was just bad, like, honestly bad. Anyway, moving on. Once the police guy was done, it was the defendant's turn to question the police guy, and that's when we found out a little bit more evidence, because he confiscated some CCTV footage from the corner as to where these guys alleged run from and to. And the other thing is he was first at the scene, and he was the one that arrested the kid, and he was basically that confiscated 2 pairs of shoes that he saw from the CCTV that kind of matched the description of what he was told to look for. Now, when they arrested the kid, I have to say they did not find the weapon, so they did not find the hockey stick, and they did not find the bomber jacket, the black bomber jacket they said he was wearing. Now, while all this was going on, I personally kept looking over at the guy to see if he was any sort of emotion or any sort of reaction, but honestly, he had the most straight face you could ever imagine. Like, every time I looked at him, even though it was for like 5 or 10 seconds, I didn't even see him blink. Literally, not even a blink. He had his dad with him, sitting there, you know, listening to the whole case, and that's the only family member he had with him. So it wasn't as if, you know, like aunt, mother, all that stuff with them there. It wasn't all that. Anyway, moving on, the defense had their turn, and as I said in the beginning, I think overall the police statements and the things he said was a complete waste of time, and there was nothing in there that gave us either new information apart from the CCTV camera and the shoes that he could have given. We were shown the shoes as to what kind of shoes they were. I don't know for some of y'all, but they were Nike Air Max 97. I don't know, they were blue, black with some white lining on it. They thought the sole had a white lining on it, so that's why they confiscated the shoes, because as the guys were running, they saw some white label. Anyway, that was his part done. He went back down to sit to his place, and in essence, that was all of our evidence, right? So I was writing down everything step by step, just to, you know, refresh my memory to when we go into the deliberation and see what can be discussed, right? And here is where I believe the prosecution and the defense made their case, because I think that's where they most excelled in. Because as I said, both of them were equally as bad. The prosecutor couldn't literally really explain what he was doing. Literally, there was a point where he forgot a big chunk of what he needed to explain. He sat down, he was like, you know, the prosecutor rest, and the judge jumped in. I was like, are you not going to talk about this? And he was like, oh yeah, sorry. Got his laptop back up and then continued. Now, if you thought that was bad, the defense, she didn't know what her left and right was. There were times where we had to look at the video and she looked around, she was like, wait, what's my left, what's my right? And we literally thought, like, is this the kind of case they want us to be in? Someone that doesn't know the left and right, and the other person doesn't, forgets half of the things that he needs to say. So moving on from that, we got to the the closing statements. I think that's where they both excelled in. Now, the prosecutor, he basically went over as to he gave the reasons as to why he believed this person should be held accountable for the action that he did, and it was basically a summary as to why that needed to happen. Now, I think here is where I made up my mind personally. The defense, she had one of a hell closing statement. The way she spoke, it felt like, yeah, like she knows what she's talking about. And it was the first time, and amongst my peers, we all felt it, like she really knew what she was on about, because the whole case, as I said, we thought she was bad. Now, after all that was done, the judge basically went over the law as to how we should follow the law and what we can and cannot do. So, for example, we weren't allowed to presume, we weren't allowed to think of what if we had to follow the facts that we were given in the case. Now, in essence, it felt like, okay, you know, don't vote for this guy as guilty because of what could have happened or what could not happen. Because here's something else that I forgot to mention. When the victim got hit and the witness came up and tried to help him, the victim immediately knew who hit him, which we thought was weird because first of all, you're in pain, secondly, you're bleeding, but then you immediately know who hit you. So he said to exclude all of these factors and just follow the facts that we were given in the case, right? So we weren't allowed to presume. Now, at that closing argument, the alleged victim, alleged attacker was allowed to say something or, you know, basically, you know, defend himself. He did not say anything. He refused to speak, which he's allowed to do, first of all, right? We, you know, well, he's not obliged to do it. However, the judge did mention that even though he didn't say anything, it could harm his defense, as you know, anyone would think. Why did he not say anything, right? And if he was found guilty or not guilty, this could have been a factor as to what led to our decisions, right? So that was the almost the end of day 2. As we went into the deliberation room, they told us to switch off our phones in anyway, but this time they took all of our phones, put it in a little basket and away from the room. What they did not want us to do was research about the case or research about similar cases and see the verdict of what might have happened, or, you know, just basically go onto the internet and find out how we could either make this guy guilty or not guilty, right? So we got into this cramped, small, no air conditioning room, and we were told, you know, knock on the door once you have your verdict, and then you guys will come out. And that's what happened. So we all sat down, all 12 of us, and we went round in a circle, and everyone gave their little piece. Now, my piece was, we heard all the evidence. Both of, well, not both, all of us thought the prosecution and defenses were bad, right? And we, in my personal opinion, I didn't think we could, you know, vote on this guy being guilty because of the lack of evidence, first of all, and secondly, on the job of the prosecutor, because he was that bad, right? Also, there were a lot of questions as to what it really meant, well, this is payback, because in the whole case, I think it was mentioned 3 times, once by the judge, once by the prosecutor, and then again once by the defendants. But not once was there a point of saying, what did he mean by this, or what happened? Like, it wasn't explained once as to, you know, what he really meant by that. Like, did they have a previous history? Did they saw each other before? I mean, it was explained that they knew of each other, so face to face on any other given day, they have seen each other on the street. I think at one point the victim even said that the guy played with his son and went to his ex-wife as to where he was closely hit. So his ex-wife lives there close by, so he saw the guy multiple times, and this is the reason why he said that this is the guy that hit me. Now, we immediately thought, you know, there is previous history with the victim and the alleged victim, right? But again, we couldn't add that onto the equation because we only could go with the facts that we were given. Now, everyone had their piece, and it was literally, we all did a vote, first of all, say who felt the person was guilty and who felt the person was not guilty. I think out of the 12 of us, at least 8, I'd say, at the very first stage, thought he was not guilty. and the sole reason for that was the lack of evidence and the way the prosecutor did his job, right? So it had to be all unanimous, so we had to keep deliberating as to why we felt the person was not guilty. Now, with a couple of my peers, they were in a limbo as to whether he was guilty or not, because I'm sure all of them, plus myself included, when we saw the pictures, like when we opened the booklet and flipped the page and saw the injuries, we all thought he did this, like no question about it. But then the fact remains is we have to prove that he did this, right? And in no way did the prosecution once explain or show or let us know that he did this, right? And that there was nothing any way, shape or form like that. So we deliberated for a number of minutes. I think it was probably another 15 minutes where we deliberated, right? And one by one, each person was like, okay, I understand that he might have done it. However, due to the lack of evidence, we cannot find him guilty. Now, there were 2 counts as to what we could find him guilty on. The first one obviously being him, maliciously intent to hurt somebody, and the second one was knowingly hit someone with the intent of hurting somebody, right? Now, as the judge explained, was we have to find him guilty of count number 1 first, right, to be able to go to the second count. Now, if we thought that he was not, if we thought he was guilty but not on the first count, that's when we had to go to the second count and see whether we felt he was guilty on that. However, if we felt he was not guilty, then the first count or the second count had no case and has no matter in this case, right? So as I said, we all went one by one, and gradually, all 12 of us start to agree that we feel that due to the lack of evidence, he is not guilty, right? And that's what happened. It took us all in all maybe half an hour to get it all discussed. We appointed a speaker, is that what they call it? Speaker, that basically answers the question from the usher. And what he had to do was he had to sit on the front, and he got sworn in again, and he basically answered the question of, do you guys find this person of count number 1 guilty or not guilty? All that, while that was happening, I was looking at that guy. I wanted to see some sort of emotion, right? And the speaker said, not guilty. I looked at him, no emotion, right? Secondly, he asked, do you believe that the alleged victim is guilty on the second count? Again, the speaker said, not guilty. That second time, that's when I saw a smile on the guy's face, because obviously he knew he wasn't going to be prosecuted. Yeah, and that was that. So I saw the emotion for the first time in 2.5 days. I saw an emotion on that guy's face, and that's when they ruled that this alleged victim was not the actual perpetrator on this occasion. Now, the judge, sorry, I can't even speak now. The judge did say that in no terms that the victim was hit, he was badly hurt. However, due to the incidents taking such a short time, there was no way for the victim to identify his attacker properly and at the same time try and defend himself and see whether it was him, right? So this person was not guilty. We all voted unanimously that it was not guilty, and we had to get our stuff and basically go back into the room and leave the courtroom. And that's when, personally for me, the dad, he gave me a nod. The the guy that was accused of hitting the attacker, he waved at me. He was like, thanks. And that was that. So we got our stuff. We were told to go back into the assembly area, and then once we left, ironically, there was like 4 of us left. We were putting our jackets on, getting our bags. The dad and his son came out the front, and I kid you not, this guy was fisting the air, and I was like, yeah, blood, we did it. I knew I wasn't for guilty. And literally, my gut feeling just dropped. Literally dropped. We were like, did we just make a mistake? Did we just make a mistake? Honestly, my first thought. Because he literally came out, and literally, his dad, he was literally like, yeah, blood, yeah. I was like, oh my God, did we just make a mistake? But then he clocked us. The funny thing is, he clocked us, and as he was going through the barriers, he was like, thank you, thank you. And I was like, that didn't sound genuine. Like, it did not feel genuine at all. And we all left us separate ways. Ironically, I was walking to the same bus stop he was walking to. And I think they were calling his family, because they said this, yeah, I'm gonna book a ticket to Jamaica right now. And I was like, cool, can I come? No, I'm joking, I didn't say that. But yeah, that was basically the whole case. So in summary, the prosecution could have made his case much more clearer, and presented his evidence and questioned the victim, the policeman, and the witness much better to convince her that it was guilty. And that was the case. Now, before you guys go, there's a few things that I have been asked, and I just want to address it. First of all, do you get paid? Yes, you get paid. Either way. So the way it works is, this sheet of paper tells you if you get paid or not, right? So if you're employed, right, you have to go to your employer and say, I've been summoned for jury service, show them the letter, are you guys gonna pay me? If they say yes, right, if they say yes, you do not have to do anything, because what they will do is they'll put on the system that you've been summoned for jury service. It is a public service, right? So you have to go. The only way you cannot go, I was told, was either you're pregnant, you already have a pre-booked holiday, right? Or you've been in prison before, or you've done it in the last 2 years, right? If you have done it in the last 2 years, that's when you can refuse to go again, okay? Now, money. Let's find out. Let's find out how much you get paid. Now, on here, it's all broken down as to how much you get paid. Now, this is to look at if your employer says you do not get paid from us, right? That's when you have to look at this. Now, on here it says, for the first 10 days of your jury service, if the case include, right, up to 4 hours, you can earn £32.47 a day, right? So you divide that by 4 and you know how much an hour is. That is if it's up to 4 hours, right? If it goes over 4 hours, you'll get paid £64.95, and that is for the first 10 days, right? If it goes on to the 11th day, the case, right? If it's up to 4 hours, you get paid £64.95. So you divide that by 4 hours, you know how much you get paid an hour, right? If it goes over 4 hours, you get paid £129.91, right? Again, do your calculation and see how much you get paid hourly from that. Now, the third one is a bit more extreme, right? This is cases that can take over 200 days or more. You get paid £114.03 a day if the case lasts 4 hours or less, right? If it goes over 4 hours, right, and let me stress, you have to be there for those number of days, so that 200 days, so like almost a year, right? Almost a whole year. But if it goes over 4 hours, you get paid £228.06. Now, you might think that this is crazy money, but then again, my case only took two and a half days, right? So you're thinking that I'm gonna earn more than I get paid at work. You might do, you might not do. Anyway, second thing, travel. Does that get covered? Yes, it does. The way it works is you have to either print out a statement if you use contactless, or you have to print out the journey you've made to and from the courthouse to show what train, bus, whatever you might have taken to get to the court. Taxis are not covered, right? They do not cover taxis at all, only public transport, right? Thirdly, lunch, it is covered. I was given a voucher that had £5.71 on it daily for me to spend on food. We had this little leaflet that explained what we could get with that voucher. If I use the voucher, great. If I don't use the voucher, I get reimbursed that money. Again, this is a public service, so all of this is designed for you to you know, help the government, you know, serve your country in a way, and you know, be a public servant for the nation. Now, I think I've covered everything. Covered the money, yeah, cover the money, cover the case, and again, we all voted unanimously not guilty. And you know, now I'm waiting for my second case to come. I'm waiting for it to be called up, and that was that. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys, you know, found that informative. Hope you guys understood the case. If you have any questions, please write down a comment down below. You know, we'll answer them. Please like, share, subscribe if you're new. Okay, and yeah, see you guys next time.